And welcome back to another edition of the KU Tweets and News Podcast. And wow, that was a beatdown by the Kansas Jayhawks. And as you can see, I'm wearing the jersey of the famous Baylor killer, Wayne Selden, who, as Frank Fraschilla said, he heard him. And it really seemed as if the ghost of Wayne Selden might have been playing for the Jayhawks. In this game that we had yesterday. So let's talk about it. I mean, the Jayhawks, they dealt Baylor probably their worst loss in a long time, an 83-59 drubbing, which really, it could have been 40 if Kansas didn't send in Chris Tehan and Michael Jankovic with 3 to 5 minutes left. And then Scott Drew keeps Adam Flagler in the game to go get some of his garbage time buckets. But KU trailed at 2-0 and really never looked back. They looked dominant in every single facet, whether it be speed, effort, shooting, rebounding, free throw shooting, getting to the line, being physical, getting to the rim. KU was better in almost every single way. And I think it's a really positive sign, of course, to see coming after a really tough loss against Kentucky, 2 great games played by these Kansas Jayhawks, and one of the most integral pieces of that team was Christian Braun. So Parker, what did Christian Braun do yesterday?
Yeah, I think Christian Braun was the player of the game. I mean, a lot of people were arguing, potentially Jalen Wilson. I mean, he had an amazing first half. I thought his defense at times could have been better, playing more up like everybody else. But Jalen got us a lot of rebounds and a lot of easy buckets, and he pushed the ball really well. So I think those two guys, I mean, you could argue were the best players in the game. I think Christian just brought that chip on his shoulder this game, and I mean, he brings it most of the time. This is one of those games that he kind of just, he was the man in the end. He came out and made a three. He's catching oops, and my favorite thing is when he breaks away, gets a steal. He anticipates the passing, gets a steal. I mean, that's when it's going to be a good KU game, when they're playing up like that. He had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists in that steal I was talking about. So just a great performance overall by the Jayhawks. Akinjo 0 of 10. That was kind of crazy. I don't know if that's a fluke. I think it's both. I think it's that he had an off night one, but also KU was playing him really well. DeJuan, his defense was amazing again. And that's what we talked about last week. If DeJuan Harris is playing defense like this, that's how he stays on the floor. And that's how you justify DeJuan being the guy, the point guard for this team. If he's hounding dudes like that.
Yeah. Akinjo's going to have some nightmares of DeJuan Harris. He probably had a nightmare or two last night of Quando Wando. But while we're on the topic of Christian Braun, let's talk about one of the best experiences of my KU Twitter. And we'll talk about it real quickly. So Kansas, if you all remember the amazing Dayton game that Kansas played back in 2019, that they took took overtime to beat him. Christian Braun didn't really play too much, but he was a freshman at this time, not as big as he was now. Might have been a better shooter, don't know. But I believe it was in the middle of the second half, Christian Braun saw the floor, and you see he just was not hustling for rebounds. He was not jumping for him. And that's not anything bad. It's sometimes like Jalen Wilson does that now. You're playing a really tough game. You're probably tired. So I put a tweet, and I'll put it on the screen now, that says Christian Braun has to give better effort on the glass. And lo and behold, Christian Braun's mother took to Twitter to tell me how ridiculous that was. Let me pull up the screenshot so I can look at him real quick. So I said Christian Braun needs to get better rebound effort, and she replied, "You know what opinions are like, and yours is one step below that." So I think she's referencing the joke that opinions are like a-holes. Everyone has one. Right. And then I quote tweeted that, and I said, "This may be the best thing I've ever witnessed of this account's life. Christian Braun's mother is upset with me over my comment about his rebounding efforts. Sorry, Miss Braun." And she said, not upset at all. If that's the best thing your account has accomplished, then spell delete.
Ooh.
And the thing is, it's like, I
You
didn't
got
really
fried.
know. And then I got blocked. So I was like, it's not the best thing the account has accomplished. It clearly is not. But, and I'll have to think about that one.
Right.
But it was just wild to me that I was just kind of sitting on my couch tweeting the game. And all of a sudden, the mother of one of the players is telling me to delete my account.
Yeah. Yep. You don't mess with players' moms. I think it was
No.
during Thanksgiving when they're all like, "What are you thankful for?" And they're all said, "I'm thankful for my mama." So you don't mess with players' moms. They'll bring the worst out.
But I didn't mess with her. I didn't like tweet at her or anything. I just said he needed to be better on the boards, and she literally just said like, delete your account.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't at her. I didn't say, bro, why didn't you give birth to a better rebounder? I literally just said Brown needs to rebound more, and then I got shouted out. But we had to mention that. That was a great story. But let's get back to the Baylor recap. And I'll talk about Ochai Agbaji, who just came back from his COVID break. Praise God for that. That deserves a and he certainly made 2 of them today. He wasn't as good from the 3-point line, but he's still tied to be Kansas's leading scorer. But he contributed a lot near the basket. He was great finishing layups, taking contact, and surprisingly from the free throw line. He struggled a little bit from the free throw line this year, but he went 6 of 7. I was a little nervous that he might be rusty. Like we might see a game like remember against Oklahoma when he hit his wrist and just he didn't score till the very end when we needed him. And he did score, but I was a little nervous we might see, maybe he was a bit slow or a bit tired, and he didn't play his full complement of minutes. But if this is going to be Ochai Agbaji's rust game, I'm taking it every single day of the week. If he's going to score 18 points, 2 of 6 from 3, 6 of 7 from the line, 9 rebounds and 2 assists, I'm taking it all day. So
I think the big thing for him this game was the rebounding, because whenever he rebounded, our transition went like that. It was pretty crazy how fast our transition game was on Saturday. And I think he had a big part in that just by rebounding and then pushing. Same with Brown, same with Wilson. Those guys give you an opportunity to get in transition. That's where we're good.
Yeah, pretty great how Ochai Agbaji is now even still swishing corner threes, even in the face of COVID-19. So pretty great. That's why he's National Player of the Year. But another guy that we love to talk about, and KU Twitter certainly loves to talk about, is DeJuan Harris. So Parker, tell me about what he did.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, his defense was great again. Held Akinjo. He was playing Akinjo. The ball screens our ball screen defense was really, really good. They weren't hitting the roller at all. And I think Scott Drew in the post game said we could have done a better job of that. I think the couple times they did, we took a charge or were able to get a steal. We had active hands. So
which led to a Matthew Meyer and Scott Drew freak out. Yeah. Technical foul. It's clearly right call, but
that was a little ridiculous. He may have gotten fouled before the charge, but if he was arguing the charge, it was the textbook charge. But you could probably argue that there's a foul before that, but his excuse was kind of lame that he had been to Allen Fieldhouse 19 times and things had just boiled over and started blaming the refs and stupid stuff like that and gave big Bruce Weber vibes to us. So I don't know what that was all about. Probably just butthurt that he got spanked.
Got 30 balled and should have got 30 balled. And apparently, according to Frame Fraschilla, in his pregame interview, he had his video guy come up with a bunch of missed calls that he got in Allen Fieldhouse. Well, one thing I have to say to you, Scott Drew, is if you're going to get manhandled in every facet of the game, what do you think the score might be at the end of the game?
Right.
You're going to get 30 balled if you walk into Allen Fieldhouse with zero energy, not able to hit any shots, starting Matthew Meyer, who is popped 3 shots from 3 in the first half, predictably missed 2 or 3 of them. Like when your best shot is a Kendall Brown 3, you're probably doing something wrong, and the other team is probably playing better than you. So let's talk about health. Joseph Yesufu at the end of the game, he played well. He had a 3. He had tons of confidence pulling from the Jayhawk, and even though he missed it, I like the confidence. I'm willing to cede those shots, especially in games where we're up 17, 18. Let him take as many shots as you want to build the confidence. But he did knock knees with another player late and collapse. It looked a little scary. He held his knee. I was hoping it wasn't an ACL, but Coach Self said at the end of the game that he was fine, and Joseph told him the same. So I guess until we hear something different, it seems like Joe Yesufu is going to be okay. Remy is still on the bench resting his knee. Bill Self has said that he hasn't been a part of practice. He's just been receiving rehab on his knee, and that he wants 90 to 95% Remy. Like we said before, I think that's the right choice.
It will be interesting once Remy gets back to see where he fits in this team.
Yeah.
Because right now, Joe's giving us plenty minutes. Lightfoot's off the bench, and potentially KJ or even like Zach Clements could come off the bench as well. But it'll be interesting. I don't think at this point, if we're playing this good, that Remy would become a starter again. And I think that's a big controversial thing because a lot of people think he should be. But kind of like Bill Self said, is who's he going in for? If DeJuan's playing that good of defense, Bill Self's not going to take him out. That's just who Bill Self is. And we know DeJuan is his favorite player ever.
Did you just say that Mitch Lightfoot would give us better minutes in favor of Remy Martin?
I would never say that. That is crazy.
You said Mitch Lightfoot is giving us minutes.
Well, he's going to get minutes. He's our backup 5.
Yeah,
he played decent yesterday. And, if it's not a Lightfoot game, take him out, put KJ in, or run McCormick more, whatever that looks like. But
I think the guy
was rebounding. So,
yeah, I think the guy that you see taking minutes is Jalen Wilson. I think you see instead of Jalen Wilson at the 4, you see him taking out Remy and DeJuan in at the same time, and DeJuan essentially is playing every minute, so I don't think you'll see that either. I think you'll go from DeJuan playing 38 to 39 minutes to probably about 32 minutes. You'll probably see stretches where Remy is the only point guard, but I feel like you'll probably see Wilson come out for Remy. And we've had good DeJuan Harris these games. He's had great defense, and if he keeps playing this defense, he's not going to come off the floor very much. But this season, we have seen him have really, really struggled games, not only shooting, but also on the defensive end. So curious to see where Remy fits in the rotation. And as we said earlier, Zach Clements, he's still a week to 2 weeks out, which is what Coach Self said in the press conference. He had a crack in his toe bone or something like that, but he did shed the walking boot and looks like he's closer to coming back, and he's on schedule like they expected. So again,
up with all these toes, man.
Yeah, exactly. Great team win. I was super impressed. I never expected us to come out and demolish them. I thought KU would probably have the advantage, but I did not expect them to demolish them. And we already have people like Jeff Goodman and Seth Davis saying Baylor just didn't look the same. They just didn't look the same. And I understand, they were out LJ Cryer, but they played Adam Flagler, who scored like 15 or 17 points. James Akinjo against West Virginia, didn't he score like 20 points? Matthew Meyer had like 15 points against West Virginia. This team, they were without LJ Cryer, but Kansas was without Remy Martin, and they were without Zach Clements. You cannot tell me that it was health that made the difference between Kansas and Baylor last Saturday. Kansas was clearly better in every facet, and health had absolutely maybe a tiny bit to do with it, but for the most part, nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And neither did officials.
Yeah, to be fair, Goodman was on his Field of 68 podcast last night, and I was listening a little bit, and most of that was because those guys on that podcast were ready to write off. They said they were ready to write off KU last week when they got 20-balled by Kentucky. They said that they gave KU some praise in this week's podcast just for beating Baylor and stuff. There's people in the comments saying, it was because Cryer was out, and I said, we had Remy out. That kind of offsets that, I would think. And they said, well, Remy's been gone all year, like he's been non-existent. And I said, well, you haven't obviously watched our games, because with the times when Remy has been in, even when he's not scoring, our offense has looked 10 times better. So I mean, if you want to blame it on injuries, I maybe you could make up 10 points with Cryer.
Yeah.
And it would be the same if we had Remy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if we wouldn't have played our walk-ons, we would have won by 35. Spot Cryer
Right.
15 points, we still win by 20. So
right.
But fun game. One of the most fun games, probably the most dominant performance I've seen KU have. And I was trying to think of when, but it reminds me a lot of the Final Four game against North Carolina. Just domination from start to finish.
That one or the Purdue game, the year in the tournament where we just, Vic had the 360 and we couldn't do anything wrong. So those are the two games I thought.
That was a great tournament win. All right, let's go around the Big 12. Number 14, Texas Tech, Parker's second favorite squad, as he told me on Saturday, takes down West Virginia and Morgantown 60-53. They only scored 60 points, but Texas Tech looks good.
That's how they win. They're gonna, force you to take bad shots, and hopefully they score more than you.
Number 23, Texas dominates Iowa State 63-41. Both teams were ranked going into this. Are either team going to be ranked on Monday?
What was Texas's other game? Did they
lost to, they got trashed by Texas Tech.
Oh, right. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. They might drop
25.
Yeah, they might be right on that line there for beating ISU though. So
right. Oklahoma State survives a late rally from OU to win in Stillwater. Man, OU has been so disappointing. They have 10 losses, but I feel like, again, I still think that they're good enough to be a tournament team if Tanner Groves plays halfway decent. But Jacob Groves has given them nothing. Yeah. Tanner Groves has given them, I think, half of what he can give Oklahoma. Yeah. So I think Oklahoma can still make the tournament. If they have to beat Kansas or Baylor. Yeah. They have to beat one of the, I don't know if they've played Baylor twice already, but they have to beat one of those two teams if they want to make the tournament. Yeah. And I don't think you're getting Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah. I think this week Lou and Nardi had OU as the last four in, actually. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, I still think OU, because I think 12 losses in a really tough league is the most you can have. Kansas State with a statement win over TCU, 75-63. I've been on the K-State bandwagon. I think they're a solid team.
That's a statement.
12-point win over a good TCU squad. That's probably the best win they've had all season. They beat Texas and Texas Tech, but and Texas Tech, but a 12-point win over a good TCU team that is a tournament team, I think, is a solid win for the Wildcats. I think they could be a tough out in the NCAA tournament, especially if Nigel Pack does what he did against Kansas.
Yeah. OU's got to beat Kansas State, because those are the two teams fighting for a tournament appearance right now, in my opinion. I think K-State was in the next four out for Lenardi right now. So
yeah, they've got to get. They've got to pick up some wins.
They've played yet, but
they have Baylor at home this week, and we'll pick that game. But that soundbite was for the potential of Nigel Pack making 7 threes against Kansas and Allen Fieldhouse. Around the NCAA. Yeah. Around the NCAA, number 1, Auburn survives in Georgia, 74-72, after a trash missed call against that was not called against the Tigers late, which led to the go-ahead bucket. Auburn deserved to lose that game. Auburn was not the better team, especially considering that Georgia has only 6 wins on the year. I think we have a new entry into the fraud rankings. We won't go over those today. That's for the next podcast. But there might be a new entry in the fraud rankings.
Yeah, you could tell the refs swallowed their whistles towards the end. To be fair, Georgia got a lot of calls, I felt like, towards the end of the game. So maybe that's why they didn't call the charge. But Georgia also missed a ton of free throws. It's crazy. So
Gonzaga takes down the toughest opponent that they were supposed to have all season in Utah, 90-57 BYU. And What do you even say about Gonzaga
you can't
right
make
now?
comments on that. I mean,
What do
it
you
is
even
what
say?
it is. So
just
BYU's
like
coming to
I
the
feel
Big
like they
12.
should just like disinclude Gonzaga from the rankings because they're not going to lose again. So
Yeah.
why does it even matter?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. BYU
All
to
right.
the Big 12. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting, especially if they get better recruiting classes in like they have in the past. Arizona State, what a game, takes down UCLA in triple overtime, 87-84. The Remy Martinless Arizona State. Arizona State, any chance of making the tournament, or is kind of a fluke win?
They have a few good wins, I think, versus Creighton, and then there's another one I can't remember, but I don't see them making the tournament. Just I mean, they're gonna have that UCLA win, but unless they win out, they have too many losses already and bad losses.
Yeah, they're 7-13. That's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize they were 7-13. Horrible loss for UCLA. Kentucky.
They also had I think Arizona State also had one of their top point guards out too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Dadgum. When it rains, it pours. You know, with team momentum. You know, it's a real thing. Number 5, Kentucky holds on against Alabama 66-55 on the road. Kentucky is for real, unfortunately. I was thinking it was just going to be another mediocre team, like around like 10-15 this year. They're for real.
Yeah, they're good.
I hope we don't have to play them in the tournament. Number 7, Arizona holds on versus USC. Looks like I forgot to put the final score, but I believe it was like a 5-point win. I watched the end of it, and USC missed 3 straight wide open threes to tie the game or go down 1. And of course, they never have to play anyone tough except for UCLA away from home. So that'll be fun. You know, I think they only have like one more challenging game the rest of the schedule. Let me look.
Yeah, I think Arizona. I mean, the Pac-12 is really soft this year. I mean, I could see them if they still have Oregon to play yet. That'd be a challenge for them. I think
they're 2 tough games. The only games that they have less of a 86% chance to win are at Washington State, who is ranked 32 in KenPom, and at home against Oregon, who is ranked 52 in KenPom. Oregon's a very streaky team. They could beat Arizona. I probably wouldn't be picking Oregon in that game, but
at home, that's tough. The Washington State game is interesting. I didn't know that they were that good.
I need to look up
tournament caliber team. So
how many quad 1 wins does Arizona have? Assuming, let's see, February 3 games, February 5th. Arizona has 4 quad 1 wins. That's surprising. That probably counts Michigan. That probably counts Illinois. That counts UCLA, and that counts USC. Yeah. I mean, like, no, Wichita State's like in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think it's Michigan. I think it's Illinois. I think it's
UCLA
and USC.
Yeah.
And those are like the only, and then they have 2 losses against quad 1. So meanwhile, Kansas is sitting here with their 8 quad 1 wins. It is what it is. I'm done talking about Arizona. I hate talking about that team. Duke, in his final game at North Carolina, smacks the Tar Heels 87-67. North Carolina is not a tournament team.
Yeah, it was a size problem for North Carolina.
Man, it couldn't make a shot either.
Man, they're missing Walker Kessler. He would have been perfect fit on this North Carolina team. I think you know that he would have changed the dynamics of it. So that was a huge loss for them.
11 Wisconsin gets the win over Penn State 51-49, and I believe they only had 20 or 30 points with like I think they only had 20 some points with 15 minutes to play. I'm glad I didn't watch that game. I'm curious about Wisconsin. I'm not sure how good they are, but I don't know, maybe it was just an off game for them. Next, we have Villanova, our favorite. What am I saying? Villanova picking up the get right win over number 17 UConn 85-74. And some of the game day guys were picking UConn. That was weird. at Villanova. I thought that was weird. I'm not taking. Villanova was bound to win this game. What do you think they can do in March? They played a tough schedule.
Villanova, they are, they're battle tested, so they'll be ready for whoever comes at them. Really, they're a huge 3-point shooting team. They're Villanova, obviously. So they're going to have their hot nights and they're going to have their cold nights. And this year they've had really a couple of cold nights, and that's why they have 5 or 6 losses. So by eternity time, they'll be a tough out. They'll be a 4 or 3 seed. So, and I think they'll win the Big East.
Handed one of the most hilarious results of the entire week. Rutgers takes down Michigan State 84-63. Like the wheels are falling off. I think that's
Rutgers
2 losses.
Did beat Purdue too, though. So you got it.
It's Rutgers.
They were good last year. They're a ranked team.
And Kansas has had their fair share of 10 to 15 point losses on the road against garbage Big 12 teams. So it can happen, but something needs to happen for Michigan State. They just need to start playing better ball because they're running out of time. And that's it for NCAA games. But speaking of NCAA games, I'm going to use this segue to say a guy who's going to be playing NCAA games in the future.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Grady Dick. Parker, he had a great weekend. What did he do?
Yep. So Sunrise, he plays for Sunrise Christian, a private school based out of Wichita, Kansas. They're ranked the #1 high school team in the nation right now. They have Mark Mitchell, who is a trader and chose Duke University when he grew up, 30 miles from Lawrence, Kansas. It's kind of a feel. He kind of gave us a feel of Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Yeah. When he went to Villanova instead of Kansas. So there's that. So Mark Mitchell's been a stud, but really the catalyst, the guy that's been making huge moves on this team is Grady Dick, who is a 2022 KU recruit. They had a big challenge. They're in a conference called the NIBC, which is essentially a super conference that has the best teams in the nation. IMG Academy, Oak Hill, where Carmelo played, and all the greats. A lot of greats have played there. There's a bunch of different squads that are really good. So Sunrise played a couple different teams. They played Derek Lively's team, who's also headed to Duke. He's the #1 recruit. They spanked them. Grady Dick had a really good game versus them. And then they played IMG Academy, which is based out of Florida. They have Keontae George, who's the #3 recruit, according to ESPN. He's going to Baylor. They have a couple other big guys like Jarris Walker. He's going to Alabama. He's a top 15 guy. But really the story of the game was Grady Dick. He had 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Dude just went off. And the announcers couldn't stop talking about him. Had a good dunk. He's a sniper. I would compare him to a Christian Braun this year, but a little better shooting. So he's about Christian Braun's junior Christian Braun's level. He's going to be that coming in as a freshman, in my opinion. A lot of people, he moved up from, where was he in the 30s of the recruiting range, and now he's 8 ESPN rankings. So a lot of people have a lot of respect for him. He's a McDonald's All-American. He's playing really well. And I would argue that he's probably the best college recruit out of this class. There's guys above him that are good NBA prospects, but I think Grady Dick's the actual best college recruit out there, just because of his skill, his shooting ability, and just how he's going to fit in the KU system. It's going to be fun to watch.
And how tall? Christian Braun's 6'5". Grady Dick's actually 6'6", right? So he's a little taller than Christian Braun too.
No, Braun's 6'7", Dick's 6'7". Yep.
Okay.
They're both 6'7". They're very similar in height and weight. I would say maybe even Dick is a little more even athletic than Braun at times.
Yeah.
Braun can throw down, but Dick has had some crazy 360 finish tip-ins. he can get up there. So
Yeah.
he's a great player. I'm really looking forward to seeing him next year. I mean, we're going to have a new team. A lot of people have been talking about MJ Rice, who's also a 5-star, and Ernest Uday, who's a 5-star. So I mean, our wings, Ochai and Christian, at this point, if Christian's going to get drafted in the first round, he's going to be out. If you're going to go in the first round, Bill Self tells you to leave. So those MJ Rice and Dick are going to come in here and immediately replace those two. Next year probably won't be as experienced, so we'll see some crazy losses, frustrating losses, but they're going to be fun to watch, and Dick's going to be a great player.
Yeah, absolutely. And KU could have been so much better when they had Wiggins and Embiid. This is probably the best recruiting class that they've had since Wiggins and Embiid.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I'm curious to see if Bill Self can kind of mesh that talent together a little bit better this year, because he's 100% a different coach now than he was back then. So he's dealt with some younger teams in the past, but hopefully, Harris will probably be a leader on that team. Who knows, depending on what David McCormick does, he still is allowed an extra year. I don't think it's, people have already saying that he's gone. I don't think it's out of the question because of how inconsistent he's been. And with NIL, it's a lot easier to come back, make money, play ball, and not take any classes. So I think that's a possibility. Next year's team looks great. And assuming we don't get a postseason ban, or Bill Self doesn't get a season-long ban, I'd say things are looking pretty good for Kansas next year. Probably, I'd say maybe around 6, 7, 8 will probably will there be preseason.
Right.
All right, let's move on to Q&A. First question from Jayhawk Focus. You think Kansas can get any better than last Saturday, or was Baylor just not ready and out a player?
I think they still have room to improve. Baylor did seem out of sync a little bit. One thing I noticed is they just weren't really trying to even contest our shots in transition. Specifically, I remember watching Kendall Brown not sprint back a couple times, and I thought that's not like them. And then I saw James Akinjo not try for rebounds or box out a different guy besides his man, allowing Wilson to rebound. There's some times where he could contest some backdoors and he didn't. So I thought that was kind of weird from Baylor. I don't know what was going up there, if they just got down early and then kind of gave up. Or I guess that's probably what happened, because Scott Drew kept saying, "Oh, we let it snowball on us." So I think their morale was just down in that game, kind of like ours was for Kentucky. We got down early, and we made it. The difference, though, for me was we made a little push in the second half, where we could have got it to 11, 10, 9 at times. Where this game was us all the way, and Baylor never even made a run.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and this is kind of going off another question from Daniel Steck, who I believe I used to play Super Smash Bros. With. Do you think our ceiling was shown against Baylor? I think we can play better. Like by Bart Torvik, they basically evaluate each game. Like you can see game by game, he gives the team a rating based on how they played. And Kansas against Baylor was a 100 out of 100. So the best, that's apparently you can't play any better. But Kansas was still, let me take a look at the box score. I believe they still only shot like 20% from three. They still had like 15 turnovers or something like that. Remy Martin wasn't in the lineup. This team dominated Baylor and can still play better. I said, every team has 2 games where they're much better than they are. We're not even fully healthy yet. The team didn't shoot as well as they could have. I still think the Kansas buzzsaw is yet to come. I still think there is going to be a game where we have everyone healthy, everyone's making shots, and whoever is on the other end, hopefully a really good team, is going to be nothing they can do. There's going to be nothing they can do. So
I would agree with your we could have shot a lot better. I think there was one possession we shot that it was probably the Joe when he pulled up. We had 3 chances at wide open threes and missed them all.
And I think it was Joe and Brown too.
Yeah, Brown missed some open threes. So we
can
be
careful, Parker. You might get Christian Brown's mom tagging you now.
Players can miss threes, but players if they don't rebound and you say something, apparently. Don't mess with the rebounding skills.
Exactly. And we got an interesting question from someone called Lakey's dad. Everyone question mark. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm just gonna say everyone played well. Yes, we'll go with it. So moving on from Q&A, let's talk about the Texas Longhorns. Beat the Kansas Jayhawks twice last year in Allen Fieldhouse by way of a 30-point rout, and also in Austin by way of Jalen Wilson losing the ball out of bounds. So 3 strengths for Texas is forcing turnovers. They play pretty tight defense, like Chris Beard's philosophy is. They turn opponents over on 25% of their possessions, I believe is the number. Let me take a look and make sure that's right. That sounds high. Yeah, their turnover percentage on defense is 25%, which is good for 6th nationally. They contest a lot of shots. Teams don't shoot very well against Texas, but given they haven't really played a really tough schedule, they played a lot of cupcakes in the non-con. But opponents are still only shooting 45.1% effective field goal percentage on them, which is 20% nationally. And then they offensive rebound pretty well. They offensive rebound 32% of their misses, which is 61st nationally. That's good offensive rebounding numbers, but not quite as good as Kansas's, which we've seen recently. 3 weaknesses: defensive rebounding, because I think it's more of a philosophy to get back. I think it's more of a defensive philosophy here to do this, rather than I don't know where I'm going with this. It's a defensive philosophy that they don't rebound as well on one end or the other. So they allow 29% of offensive rebounds on the other end, which is 216th nationally. They foul. They foul a lot, and that happens when you play Chris Beard defense. So 30.9% free throws attempted divided by field goals attempted on their defense, which is 206th nationally. And then they have a lot of just kind of average stats. Like they only shoot 33% from 3, which isn't horrible, but it's not amazing. Like if they get hot, yeah, they'll probably beat you, but they're not a team that's going to be jacking up 30 a game. They have an 18.8% turnover percentage. Not amazing. 9.2 to 9.6 turnover percentage, which I believe is steal percentage and non-steal percentage on offense. So they don't give the ball away a ton, but they give the ball away a decent amount. So it's not like they're good at a couple things, but they're not amazing at anything, and they're not good at anything like that they're not amazing at, if that makes sense. So sure. They also play a pretty small lineup. Their center is 6'9". Their power forward is 6'6". They don't have a 7-footer. They also don't score a ton. They only score 68 points per game, which I believe was 286th in the nation. So they're not a scoring team at all. Their identity is on defense. Some players to look out for: Timmy Allen, 11 points per game, 6 rebounds. He's kind of a wing stretch 4 type player. And obviously Marcus Carr, who Kansas recruited hard, but ended up going to Texas, and he's had a bit of a struggle season, but he's still averaging 11 points per game, 34% from 3. And Andrew Jones, who has killed Kansas in the past with his 3-point shooting, is only averaging 10 points per game and 32% from 3. He's getting kind of a relegated to a wing role rather than a point guard or 2-guard role. Right. And then you have patented Kansas villain Courtney Ramey, who's good for at least 7 threes a game. Who's good for at least 7 threes a game against Kansas. So he's only shooting 38% on the year, and I say only 38%, meaning he'll probably shoot 50 against Kansas. So.
Oh, but you're forgetting the next great Texas point guard.
Is that Devin Askew?
Yeah.
Devin,
before the season starts.
Devin, worst afro of all time, Askew.
He said, Chris Beard, before the season started, about Devin Askew, said that he is the next great Texas point guard. Okay, Texas has had some pretty good point guards, DJ Augustine, those types of guys, but let me read let me read you his stats so far this season. He averages 15 minutes a game. Okay, 2 points, 0.8 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. That is the next great Texas point guard.
That's a game breaker.
Okay, I'm gonna give Chris Beard some credit here. Maybe he's thinking, 2-3 years down the line, like Bill Self was with Bobby Pettiford. I'm gonna give him some. But to think that he's getting 15, Bobby ain't getting 15 minutes a game. Devin Askew's getting 15 minutes a game and putting up 2 points. Tell me how that he's going to be the next great Texas point guard if he's getting 15 minutes, 2 points a game. I mean, I could see him maybe his senior year moving up to 8 and 10. It's going to have to be a big jump, though.
Yeah, and they have like Marcus Carr, point guard, but when he's not in the game, they don't really have a point guard. I guess Andrew Jones is a pretty good point guard, but I'm trying to understand. Because he plays 17% of the possessions at point guard. He plays 12% of the possessions at shooting guard. So he has the opportunity. I don't know. He might be a bust. I say that, and he'll probably play out of his mind against Kansas.
Versus us, hit some threes.
Yeah, but
I mean, Brock Cunningham's taking the charge this game. So
yeah, absolutely.
According to Fran Fraschilla, Brock Cunningham is superior to Cade Cunningham.
Did he really say that?
Well, it was one game where last year when Texas was playing well and Brock had made a bucket or made a good pass or dived on a ball, and he said, "Is that Brock Cunningham or Cade Cunningham?"
Wow.
So there's that. But
wow,
anyway,
that's wild. Well, let's go to picks. Surprisingly, Ken Pom, BPI, and Bart Torvik all give Texas a pretty good chance of winning this game, greater than 50%. So Kansas might actually, I don't know if they'll be the underdog in the line just because of Texas's form. But analytics seem to like Texas in this game. Based on momentum and based what I've seen from both of the teams, I think Kansas wins this game. It might get close, especially if Texas starts hitting some shots. But we've seen games where Kansas has walked into Austin and just dominated from the tip. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I think I like Kansas by 10 to 12 in this game. So I'm going to take the Jayhawks 72, Texas Longhorns 60. I think David McCormick has a good game. I think Ochai Agbaji has a really good game. And then from there, it really depends. I could really see Harris playing well against this team and getting a lot of steals because Marcus Carr is a very ball dominant player, but he's going to have to guard Marcus Carr well. And hopefully Jarence Howard, former KU assistant, being on that bench doesn't give away too much of what we're trying to do. But I like the Jayhawks in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with them too. Just based on what we saw on Saturday, it's hard not to bet against them. I think Texas is very, even though they just smacked Iowa State, I think they're very similar where they're great on defense and mediocre on offense. And if our defense plays like the way we did, I don't see Texas outscoring us. So I'm going to pick, I was going to say 10-2, but I'm going to go a little bit higher. I was going to say 82-72, Hawks by 10.
Now let's talk about Pick'em. Last week, Parker was 8-1, had a pretty solid week. I was 5-4. I picked a lot of upsets, mind you, but I was 5-4, which was whatever. But let's go game by game. 24 Marquette at 17 UConn. Parker, who you got?
I'm gonna take Marquette. I don't know why, but I don't know. Media's giving Marquette a lot of attention. I think they have a decent squad, and I think they're gonna get a win at UConn.
I like Marquette as well. I think they're starting to hit their stride, and they've got a lot of positive. I'm a big believer in momentum, and unless a game can really teach you a lot about what you lost, like why you lost, I think momentum's a huge deal in college basketball, and I think Marquette has some very positive momentum. So I'm going to take the Fighting Shaka Smarts in this one. Number 1 Auburn at Arkansas.
Yep, this is going to be my upset pick. I think Auburn's due, just the way they've been playing. Is they've been, I mean, kind of like KU was before the Kentucky game. They were really, barely winning their games, and then they got blown out. So Arkansas is desperate for a staple win to get in that top 25, get a better ranking, get into the tournament. So I'm going to take Arkansas.
Yeah, I like Arkansas as well. I think Auburn's on borrowed time. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're probably a top 4, top 5 team, but they're due for a loss. They have been struggling. They could come out and just control Arkansas like they did against Alabama last week, but they're absolutely due. And in a game where they probably just squeaked one out at Georgia, I'm curious if they'll be ready. So I'm going to take Arkansas as well. Number 11, Wisconsin at Michigan State. Michigan State coming off that poor loss. Who takes the dub?
I'm going to take the home team, Michigan State, just because I think they'll be like us, coming off a bad loss, get regrouped, get together. And, I haven't been super impressed with Wisconsin outside of their star, Johnny Davis, who had a little bit of a rough game last game. So I'm going to take the Spartans, even though they got smacked this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan State's due for a rebound game. Number 18, Illinois at number 4, Purdue.
This is an interesting one because you don't know which Illinois team's going to show up. I'm going to take Purdue at home. They're hard to beat. I don't know if they've lost at home this year, maybe once. But I'm going to take Purdue. I think they have the big guys inside to handle Kofi Cockburn. If they can do that, if their guards are making threes, Purdue's a really good team. If their guards aren't making threes, then Purdue's a really average team.
I'm going to take the upset. I like Illinois. I think if a team can really make shots against Purdue, which I think Illinois is certainly capable of doing. Kofi Cockburn also wasn't very effective. He either wasn't effective or he wasn't playing, if I remember correctly, against Purdue last time. I might be wrong. But I think he's going to have a much better game. That I think he's a great matchup for Zach Edey. I'd take width over height in terms of a basketball player any day, in terms of a center. So I'm going to take Illinois in this one. Number 8, Baylor at Kansas State. Big opportunity for the Wildcats to get a resume win.
They're not going to do it. Baylor's going to win. I mean, they just don't have enough firepower. Their wings are going to get Kansas State's wings like they did versus us are just going to get burnt on offense. So I see Sohan and Brown and Flagler all having really good games this game versus KSU.
Yep. And I like Baylor too, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a squeaker because Kansas State will come ready to play. The fans will show up.
K-State does, I guess, need a staple win. So
yeah, the fans are going to show up for this game. They only show up for one game a year typically, but this game is, Baylor has become the 1B to Kansas in the Big 12, so they'll show up for this game. But I still think Baylor takes home the victory after a really mentally tough loss. They'll want to get right. Number 14, Texas Tech at Oklahoma. Can Oklahoma finally get a good win?
I don't think so. I mean, Tech just plays too good of defense. I don't see how OU is going to score. Their guards are not great. I think, Tech's going to come out and play good defense like they have been. And Terrence Shannon's starting to come on, another piece for Tech that he's been kind of absent lately. So I'm going to pick Tech here.
I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to take Oklahoma. I'm going to take Boomer Sooner. I think Tanner Groves will know. He knows that he needs to give more. And I think he has the 25 piece that he's been waiting for this entire season. I think Oklahoma gets their statement win and will firmly be back in the NCAA tournament picture. I think Texas is, OU's defense isn't amazing, but they struggle to score even against poor defenses. So I think
how's Groves going to score though?
Santos Silva's a blob, bro. Tanner Groves
they'll take him out early and put Williams on.
Bro, Groves is not as skilled as Bryson Williams, but he's more skilled than anyone on Tech's team except Bryson Williams. And Bryson Williams is not a good defensive player either. So he's a great scorer, but he's not a defensive player.
That's probably true, but I mean, the way you're probably envisioning Groves going off is him making threes, and if Bryson Williams,
he has great post moves.
Okay, so you're saying,
and Bryce Williams isn't a great rebounder either. So I could see a lot of stickbacks as well. Okay. So I think Groves has a good game. I think Mosier is a good coach, and he knows he has to have his team ready for this one. Iowa State at West Virginia in a battle between two disappointers in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think Sherman's going to be back. He's going to have to be back. So I think with Sherman back, West Virginia is going to find enough, especially if Iowa State goes to zone. I could see what's his name, McNeil going just ballistic. I mean, he kind of did this week, but wasn't enough. So.
Yep. I like West Virginia as well, but I'll say I'm going to take ISU if Taz Sherman is out.
You can't put a disclaimer.
Yes, I can.
No, you cannot. You got to pick one team straight up. You can't pick two teams.
They're two completely different teams. With or without Taz Sherman.
We're picking as of now. You cannot put a disclaimer in there. You pick ISU.
He had a concussion last Tuesday.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Then I'm taking West Virginia. I'm just going to assume he's back. But if he's not and they lose, I'm blaming you. Oklahoma State at TCU. Does Oklahoma State continue the nice little run they've had?
I'm going to take OSU just because TCU lost to K-State. And, I mean.
Don't disrespect K-State like that.
Lane KSU fan Stanberry.
I'm not a KSU fan.
Come on,
I think they're a decent basketball team, and I think they've played a tough schedule.
Okay. I think I'll take. I just haven't watched TCU enough to pick them. So.
Yeah, I like TCU in this one on their home floor, coming off of a loss at Kansas State. I like them to bounce back. And that is our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully. We'll have the next podcast out around Thursday, and hopefully Kansas can get the win over Texas. It's always a tough place to play, but I think they should be in pretty decent shape to take home another win in this gauntlet of a schedule that they've had to play. And we didn't introduce ourselves at the beginning. We didn't say our names, so let's just say them now. I'm Lane Stanberry.
Yep, and I'm Parker Titus.
And let's go Hawks. Let's get this dub on Big Monday.
Yep, rock chalk.